So I'm actually fairly new to the cycling world. I've just been cycling for just over 2.5 years. Pretty quick into the ultra cycling side of it because I came from marathon training, so I was already used to pretty bulk sort of endurance training and had a good aerobic engine. So then it was just a lot of the muscle development and then developing also the other bike skills and know-how and everything. So it was actually 60 days after the first time that I clipped into pedals, and it was a 208-mile race from Logan, Utah to Jackson, Wyoming. I was hooked from the get-go into ultra cycling, but I tried road racing the next couple years a little bit. But it wasn't until Hoodoo 500 last year, that was my first big ultra race, that I really found out that this is where I need to be and this is where it's suited to me and what I'm good at. Got me hooked and sent me into a winter of really hard training that then has led me to what hopefully will be a great season because I have a lot of fitness and I'm able to produce a lot and have a lot of cool goals. And so cycling, road, PT, mountains. I live in northern Utah, so I live in elevation and then have lots of mountains around. I did a self-supported Everesting last year, and so I just love all the road biking stuff. I'm pretty flexible, and so I was actually really excited to get more into aero TT, and even on the road bike, I work pretty hard at staying pretty aero and being efficient for the energy that is consumed. So I just head down all day, steady power, going as fast as I can, and yeah, that's what I like the most. Yeah, great question. I'll try and keep it short. Rich Roll was my introduction into ultra endurance type of things. So big student of his podcast and learning from all the people that he's learned from and connected with over the years as well. Mm-hmm. Since then, I've made a lot of connections in the ultra cycling world, mostly through Zwift. Zwift is a great tool. That's where I do most of my training. So I've met Hoppo and Marco and many other riders on Zwift, but those are probably the two that and Nick DeHaan is another ultra cycling rider that we connect a lot and do a lot of events together on there and do a lot of chatting, and they've been huge mentors for me, learning the curve of how do you go so long and what do you eat and oh yeah, don't forget sunscreen and those type of things that are really helpful. Probably the one that I'm closest to and chat with the most and go over things, and he's just a stellar example of perseverance and an ultra rider that is amazing. And my biggest person that I've learned the most from lately as I'm getting into more of the performance side of things, of course, is Strasser. And so I love how much he puts out there. He's a great example for just talking about what he does and sharing information. So I've kind of taken from that and I'm doing a similar thing by having a YouTube and Instagram account where I share my nutrition, race ideas, those type of things. And I'm kind of sharing the journey of what it looks like to push and try and break limits, both your own and the ones that have already been established. I saw it come up a couple times as I was getting ready for ultra events or thinking about what gear is best and everything. I had settled on some seats that worked, but it's always making them work and learning how often to stand up and how to move around and battling the seat idea. And I had been told by Hoppo, man, you got to try an infinity seat. You got to try one. And I was like, oh, maybe at some point. And of course, some people they don't like it and it's not for them. And so other people were it's not that great or whatever. And so I had these back and forth opinions and everything. And as I really got into well, I'm putting a lot of hours in the bike and I need to be more comfortable, and I've gotten some issues on some of these long rides, I want to give it a try, just I'm giving everything else a try, because I tried an ISM saddle for a while as well. That didn't really do a good fit for me. But pretty much immediately I got my hands on one and tried one, and I was this is perfect for ultra cycling. Holy cow, it unloads a ton. There was a big, I feel learning curve for the body to engage a little bit differently and to sit a little bit differently. So I felt there was some residual soreness or some things that kind of changed how I moved a little bit. But after adjusting to that, it's been perfect. It's the only saddle that I've found that I can sit basically all day once it's in the right position, not have any issues with. So I've only tried the completely open model, so I'm interested in trying some of the other ones more in the future. especially because I do end up doing a lot of rides where I put a lot of power into the pedals. And so I've heard that sometimes that like in between cover can help with some of that power transfer be a little bit more even, because there are times that I feel like I move just a little bit too much. Oh, Marco, those guys all told me you got to try one. They're the best thing, you know, they're going to make a huge difference. And everyone says that about products and things on the bike market. And you're like, yeah, okay. And I've tried stuff. But this was probably the one that I like instantly was like, no, this is a game changer. Like, this is huge for going long. Yeah, so I'm working with a fitter now that isn't super familiar with the seat. To me, adjust it. I've learned on my own, but he wasn't super familiar with like where it needs to be positioned for a TT aero position. So I think we got it a little bit too much nose up, and I had a little bit of like pressure and chafing on the front that I haven't always experienced. A little bit more level when you are all the way forward. Right. So inside, I've loved it. I've got it comfortable outside, but I didn't want to change it too much because the rest of my like dynamics were super good on the bike. So I just kept it that way for Sebring, knowing that I need to play with it a little more in the future. Ending up a little more than I wanted to, or a little more than I'm used to, like regularly, just to kind of like move things around. It's the best outcome I've had seat-wise from an ultra race. Usually I just like accept the fact that I'm gonna have some sort of sore or some sort of issue coming out of an ultra race, and I'm just gonna deal with it or whatever. This was the first time that I was pretty confident and had good outcomes of not having any really issues big afterwards, like minimal, I guess. Yeah. In my mind, successful ultra racing is eliminating or reducing as many stressors as you can, because there's just so many of them. And the nutrition and the bike fit and the mechanicals and the support crew and the weather, there's so many things stack up over 24 hours that if you can get rid of or reduce severely one of those, it's massive, because it's one less thing on your plate. And the seat definitely feels that way. It's one thing that I can just know, okay, that's good, and I can deal with all the other stuff. Yeah, well, it's definitely different visually, right? I think everyone's like, that looks kind of silly and ridiculous and everything. So yeah, outside of that, it's just the biggest thing is the feel underneath, that you have something. Like when I went out inside is always an issue with seats, because there's just so much more staticness and feel to it. So it's you got to get like the right motion and everything. But outside, Infinity Seat's probably the only one that I've experienced where it's like don't even think about it. Like it's just not even an issue. So that's the biggest difference, is that like it just feels like you're floating, like you're just sitting there. So especially because so many cyclists, that's their biggest complaint. And there's like, I watched some Instagram videos about it today where there was one where it was like, hey, cycling season starting up, and it's jokingly like the person talking to their legs, and their legs are like, oh, arms are like, okay, I don't really care or whatever. Their rear end's like, no, oh. And it's like, well, you could eliminate that maybe, or reduce it once again if you had the right equipment. And I think this is definitely a piece of that puzzle. Your mind is your greatest tool and also your greatest barrier. And then along with that is like, learn as much as you possibly can. Like, I can't tell you how many podcasts, YouTube videos, articles I've read about training, nutrition, equipment, aero versus comfort, like all the different things. Like, just been a student of the sport. If you want to get good and fast and efficient, you have to learn as much as you can. Going back to the mind, I'm actually a mental health counselor. That's how I'm trained, and I have my master's degree in marriage and family therapy. I now supervise a couple students that are working towards completing their programs or working towards their own licensure. So that's what I do for a normal job. And it's really rewarding, but it's also taught me that the mind is powerful, that everything starts in the mind, that if you have a good life or a bad life, or you're positive or you're negative, it all starts with how you think and how you talk to yourself and the words that go on in your head. And that is so true in cycling. Your mind is what's going to unlock things for you. So my whole thing is about no limits left. The idea of like, stop accepting what tells you no, like break through the barrier enough times that you realize that you are the one stopping yourself, or that the world is the one telling you that that's not possible or that's crazy or whatever, and let go of that and see, like, figure it out for yourself. Figure out how far you can push yourself. Figure out how much you can eat. Figure out how many miles you can ride in a week. Figure out if zone 2 is right for you, or if you need to do more interval type of work, and like learn yourself and let go of the things that are holding you back. That doesn't mean not learn, because once again, my other thing was learn it all. You got to you got to become a master to then break the rules, right? So then the enjoy it part is, once you can break through those limits, it's very rewarding. It's very enjoyable to like get to a place that you never thought you'd be before, to do something you never thought you'd do. Like I remember one of the first times that I went longer on the bike than I thought that I could. I remember finishing that ride, like coming over the top of a mountain after doing a climb that like my brain 30 minutes ago was like, nope, whatever you got to do, like we're done. And I remember summiting that, and just the euphoria and the positive feeling of like I did it, and how good I feel, and the endorphins flowing. I went another hour because I was just like so elated with where I was, and I was like, I was ready to stop, not that long ago. I think like most things in life, the greatest enjoyment or the greatest rewards come after the work. So do the work, break through the limits, and then reap the reward. So this year I was thinking of targeting mostly 24 hours originally, and doing hoodoo as well, and staying kind of in that ballpark. I was thinking of doing Race Across the West back when I was looking at the season from last year, but then I was like, between the support and the crew, like the crewing support and the money and all that kind of stuff, I just don't know if I can swing it this year. But then as I went into winter and my fitness just got so good, and then I went to Sebring and had such an amazing outcome, I'd go for the cool big things, like I need to and use this while I have it and see what happens. Some positive attention and people interested in what I'm doing. And so I thought, well, let's just put Raw on the table, and let's put the World Ultra Cycling Association World Cup as the season goal, races that are required to complete in that, because that's 4 different races on its own, and let's go for it. And so I put that on the calendar, and that's probably like one of the A races of the year is Race Across the West. And then I've got Hoodoo in August. I'll do 12 hours in Borrego Springs at the end of October, beginning of November, so on the 24 at Sebring. And then the other biggest thing I do most of my training virtually. Like I live on Zwift as in Utah. And then the other part of it is I am a father of 2 young children. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And I have a wife who works and who also has her own ambitions and things that she's a part of that I like to support. And that's how we do this, is we support each other back and forth. And so Zwifters are so convenient to not have to do all of the like set up, tear down, extra work that happens with going outdoors. I can just like hop on so quick, and I can be right off real quick. And if the kids are napping, I can like jump off real quick and help with something that's going on, and then hop right back on. And so I just live on Zwift. And so I became very familiar with the virtual cycling world, to the point where my next event is actually a virtual cycling record that I'm going for. So 19th, I'm doing a 24-hour virtual cycling record attempt. That's with Guinness and WUKA involved. So Matthew Lefthand's a pretty unique name. So if that's what I am on all social media sites, at Matthew.Lefthand. So if you search that on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, we just started a YouTube account a couple weeks ago. It's got my Sebring race recap video on there, as well as like pre-race information and a couple podcasts that I've been on. But Instagram is where I share everything. That's where I upload stories to, and the different event details and everything. And I'll also be collaborating on posts with Zwift and Wahoo for the upcoming records and everything. So definitely follow me on Instagram or Facebook. I share that both of them, depending which site you use.